This massive slab of monkey pod is 3 inches thick and over 12 feet long. Definitely my most challenging table to date. I definitely had some ups and downs in this project, more than I'm willing to admit. More sanding as well. I'll spare you the footage of that, but no, I did hours of it. I built a few dams for either side, and things didn't always go according to plan. Even though I thought I took great precautions, steps like taking my time, really being thorough with what needs to be blocked off, and once you're finished installing these dams, I then put a 2-to-1 high-performance resin all over the whole thing to seal everything in. At this point, the resin was really speaking to me. I totally agree, little buddy. Let's go ahead and get you poured out and let's do this thing. I'm feeling pretty confident at this point. I mean, after all, look how crystal clear this is. However, well, I panicked a bit. The deep pour was done. We had an accident. It leaked. We lost about a third. And we cleaned up the mess, and so far just one little drop, and we got that fixed. So, oh, I just saw one more. As if that wasn't bad enough, I made a huge rookie mistake, causing me hours of extra work. My goodness. Luckily, I persevered, and in the end, it all worked out. And you got to see how I applied this durable ceramic coating to this beautiful table. So, come along with me, and let's see just how the largest table I've ever made turned out. So this is monkey pod. It goes by different names depending on where you are. You got golden acacia, you got peroda, or monkey pod. Typically, this tree is harvested down in areas like Costa Rica and then brought up to the United States. A lot of times, these slabs will come in pre-resined. I actually have one of those, and I got it from one of my local suppliers here. And my dining table, which I'll link down below, is made from the same wood. However, this one, there's no resin involved, at least not yet. So this is a very thick table. The track saw couldn't even cut all the way through. I'm having to come back again with a Japanese pull saw to finish the job. This is a 2.5-inch deep cut that this track saw can do. And then of course, coming back with that saw, this thing is about 3 inches in thickness. Now, per the client's request, I am going to keep as much sapwood involved with this. Sapwood is that lighter color wood on the edges of the slab. Typically, you would want to cut that off, but you know what? You can leave it in as long as you take care of it and go ahead and seal it with some type of penetrating epoxy, which we're going to do. And we're also going to go ahead and put some 2-to-1 high performance a little bit later on just to be safe. All the resin I'm using in this project is by Total Boat, and if you want to check more of them out, you can check them in the description as well. You can see here, well, you're just going to want to paint and seal all the nooks and crannies. That way you mitigate as many bubbles as possible when you come back with the final deep pour. And by the way, you might be noticing I'm doing this in the house. This is a over 400-pound slab. It's huge. And really, it doesn't make much sense to take it and move it to my space because I don't really have room for it. So I figured I would just take my time and be careful and lay down cloths when I need to, sweep up, vacuum when I was finished, and hopefully it's all going to work out. So with the first initial resin prep done with some tape, I'm now going to come back with some melamine and build dams on either side. You're going to see here I'm going to seal the melamine up with some black caulk with an L. And of course, this process is nothing new. It's fairly simple, and I made an absolute rookie mistake in doing this, and you'll see that in just in a second. Let me know if you point it out. So yeah, anyway, moving forward. So this is one of those processes where you build the dam according to your needs. You just kind of follow your nose. There's no measurements here. I just took the melamine out to the size that I needed, and then you're going to see here I'm going to build the dam kind of right up to the edge. I put this piece underneath, I marked that line, and we're able to do it just like so. Pretty easy, pretty intuitive. And now we're going to take some more of that black caulk with an L, and we're going to seal it up. Really is that simple, guys. All right, so yes, resin tables are out there on YouTube. They've been there for a long time. However, I'm going to share with you a little bit of a backstory on how resin even came to be. So while we get started on filling these voids, let me just take you on a little journey through the history of this fascinating material. Believe it or not, resin has been around since ancient times, long before it was used for tables and art pieces. Natural resin, which actually comes from trees, think amber or pine, kind of like the one in Jurassic Park, that pine sap that, I guess, Newman from Seinfeld, is that right? Anyway, I digress. Anyway, the fact is, it was used by ancient civilizations for everything from preserving relics to making jewelry, even as a type of early adhesive. it was highly prized and used in trade routes along and around the world. So fast forward to today, around the 20th century, and scientists have developed synthetic resins, making it even more possible and versatile than it ever was before. So in the 1930s, they created what we call now epoxy resin, the same type we're using today, originally intended for protective coatings. But when artists and woodworkers started experimenting with it, well, they just saw how stunning it could be as a part of a piece of furniture or an art piece. Pretty interesting. So here we are continuing that tradition, using resin to fill, seal, and add a bit of magic to this slab. You see here, I'm actually using a 2-part thickened epoxy to actually kind of fill in those voids with that dam I made. And I'm hoping beyond hope that that's going to work. Maybe that's a little foreshadowing. I don't even know. But either way, I'm pretty excited to see all this come together. And if you've ever wondered why resin is so popular, well, I think this will speak for itself. It gives you some really interesting and diverse pieces that you really just can't find anywhere else. Okay, enough about the history of this stuff. Let's dive into what exactly I'm doing again. So instead of just using the penetrating epoxy like you saw me do, I'm taking a 2-to-1 high performance resin. This stuff that came out of that pump, to me, is the best all-around jack of all trades resin you can use. I mean, it can be used for really thick projects. You just got to have a lot of time and patience. You can pour it in about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, and keep going over the course of, days to weeks if you want to. But I will say this, we're not going to do that. We're going to use it to seal everything up really well, and then we're going to come back with another 2-part resin formulated for a deep pour that can go up to 3 inches. Okay, I'm giving the table a once over. It's been about 6 to 8 hours now. Everything seems to be drying up pretty well, and I think I'm good to go. We've got everything in place here. You can see I've made those little dams out of that Thixo stuff. And this is the part that I'm really worried about. Is this going to hold up? Is this going to work? I mean, who knows? The idea is that it should, but we won't know until we actually pour and we have safety precautions underneath just in case. Let me give a massive shout out here to Total Boat. They've been a long time supporter of me and this channel. They reached out when I had 11,000 subscribers. I don't even know how long ago that was, 2018 maybe, and we've been working together ever since. And I really do appreciate everything they've really ever done for me and allowed me to use their products in these videos that I do from time to time. So it does help when you click that affiliate link down below and shop what they got going on, and I really appreciate it, and I know they will too. All right, follow the directions on the back of the package, guys. Honestly, it's the easiest way to do it. Make sure you're working with clean buckets, clean tools, and there's a couple tips I'm going to give you here. You want to make sure you transfer your resin from one bucket here to another and then stir it again. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of pigment. Client wants a bit of a smoky look, still very clear, but a little bit gray, a little bit charcoaly, so that's what we're going for. Okay, the Fathom is ready to go, but not yet. There's a mistake a lot of people make is they don't let it sit in the bucket for about 20 to 30 minutes before pouring. Do that for the best results, the most clear finish you're gonna get, so don't forget that step. Okay, moment of truth. Let's go ahead and pour this thing, and this is the spot I'm actually worried about. It's filling up nicely, and it's working its way towards that dam over there made from that Thixo. And you see me waiting patiently. I've got a camera over there trying to look at it and see what's going on. And it's working pretty well. However, it's going deep within the table, all up in these fissures and whatnot. So we're going to pour it in another section, and you're just going to watch real carefully here how it just fills right up. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty satisfying process, too, to see this all fill up. And then you're eventually going to have to wait just a little bit longer because it is, no matter how well you seal this up, you're going to have spots that sink a little bit, that settle. And that's just the nature of this beast. Wood is always going to kind of absorb the material that you put on it, especially when it's in liquid form. And that's no different here. So take your time, use a resin that takes a long time to set up like this, and you'll be good to go. And to be honest with you guys, I'm freaking out, honestly. This process in someone's home over their dining room floor that they just put in, pretty nerve-wracking. So if you've never done a project like this, I suggest you give it a shot. Maybe not a 12-foot dining table to start out with. Maybe do a small end table, just kind of maybe some 3/4 inch material, who knows. But look on YouTube. It's the best resource for finding projects like this and how to do them properly. Maybe not follow my lead. Even the manufacturers that make the resin have good videos as well. So check them out. And maybe I should listen to my own advice here, because disaster struck here on the section of the table I thought was really better prepared. Well, I panicked a bit. You can see this. Well, that's about, we lost about a third. And why is that? Let me show you. Yes. Had a small problem with the, yeah. The caulking down there, and then it just spread all the way to the bottom of this thing, all the way down. So I had to think quick, make a dam out of some Tyvek, some shims, and we've cleaned up the mess, and so far just one little drop, and we got that fixed. So, oh, I just saw one more. Well, it's a new day. The deep pour was done. We had an accident, it leaked. So let's go check out, see how it did. Okay. Yeah. Nothing there. However, so this is the area I thought was going to be the most troublesome, and it went off without a hitch. That's pretty awesome. Okay, with everything all hardened up, it's now time to refill back this section. Now, I will tell you this, because I had the accident, everything underneath this is rock solid. There's no worry of this ever doing that again, because it already did it once. And everything that was basically leaked out solidified underneath, and there's no chance of it permeating once again. So I'm pretty confident in it. I didn't do any checks. I just figured that was the way it was going to be, and I was right. So as I'm filling this up, you're going to see it's not going to leak at all, and the other side is going to be okay. I just have a ton of stuff and sanding to do underneath. But in order to do all that, I need to flip it. And here we go. Take my spot. And I got some help. I got Derek on the left, Mark on the right, and me in the middle, and you're going to see how we do it. This thing's about 400 pounds. Okay. Hold it. You got it? Yeah. Okay. I'll let it go. Maybe even heavier. Taking our time, being careful. Couldn't have done it without you guys. Man, y'all should be proud.
52.
How old are you again, Derek?
52.
That's a well-deserved fist bump. Thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate it. Now, it's time to take this mold off and see what we got underneath. I know we're going to have probably a gallon or so of resin that's just flat and thick underneath one area. And the other, well, should be okay. And you're going to notice I'm going to struggle with this. And here's the absolute rookiest mistake anyone can make when working with this stuff, is that I forgot to put down some type of anti-stick tape, like a Tyvek tape. You saw it in the earlier video. In the earlier part of this video, I had some, and I could have used it, but I just left the melamine bare, and I shouldn't have done that. Now, you can release resin from melamine much easier if you let it sit for like 3 weeks to a month. It will cure much better or much more prolonged, and it will release from the melamine easier. However, with only a 24 to 48 hour cure, it's still pretty sticky, and that's when the tape really comes into play. You're going to see here, I'm going to absolutely struggle with this. This took the majority of the day, and it's going to be, broken down in only about a minute here on YouTube, but I was defeated. I couldn't believe I made the mistake, and the process of getting it all cleaned up was an absolute nightmare. But you know what? You got to keep going, and I did, and eventually got to the point where I revealed to myself that sanding was going to be an absolute nightmare as well. So it was fun, don't get me wrong, but this was a low point in the project, and I got through it okay. And so now I have some of this black caulk with an L to contend with, and if you have a massive razor blade like this, definitely use it. you know? Go ahead and wiggle it back and forth. It's real easy, you know, just like so, and accidentally cut your hand and observe that you did so, and just keep working. No big deal. So, enough about these struggles. Let me tell you a little bit more about what this type of wood is. It's called monkey pod. You're thinking, monkey pod? What is that? Well, let me give you a picture of the tree in nature. It's pretty awesome. It's a very sprawling tree. The trunks can be in 10 feet in diameter in rare cases, but mostly you'll find trees that produce slabs of this size, no problem. Now, here's the thing. Monkey pod, like I said in the beginning, is known by, like I said there, monkey pod or perota or even acacia in other areas. But let's just start with the basics here. Monkey pod trees are native to Central and South America, but they also thrive in parts of Southeast Asia as well. These trees are incredibly resilient, growing in hot, humid climates, and can live well over a century. And when it comes to harvesting, they're typically around 50 to 80 years old. Now, living that long, they do yield very large, wide trunks and branches, which give us these beautiful, expansive slabs that you see here in this table. Speaking of this table, I sanded this for hours and hours. And let me give you an update of what I'm going to do to the bottom before we flip it.
Okay, at this point, this thing kicked my butt today. One, I feel like I'm coming down with something and my body aches. But this was tough. I actually went and bought a belt sander and a surface planer to help me with this. And then I was gonna polish these sections up here. That way when you look through, because right now the bottom is the top, when you look through, you would see glass. But instead of polishing it, well, I'm gonna just pour more resin. And we'll do that, and then we'll flip it over when it dries and continue. It is something of note that this table will be finished eventually with Osmo. And that's a hard wax oil, but for right now, we're gonna put some resin to get these kind of to pop a bit more. And then when it's dry, I'll put a coat of Osmo on the bottom as well. You don't wanna not have finish on both sides of the table like this. And again, we're not going crazy with the C channel. We're just gonna let it happen. This is a busy home with 4 young children, and it's gonna get beat up. So that's what we're doing.
And thank you for the update, Under the Weather Chris. And now back to our regularly scheduled sounding Chris to give you more information about this tree we're talking about called monkey pod. Now, funny name, right? Monkey pod. Well, the reason it's called that is because these trees produce these pods. And what are they? Well, they kind of have more or less a sweet and edible pulp that's enjoyed by mostly monkeys. But birds and other livestock in some regions eat this stuff as well. Now, these trees are only harvested when they're at the end of their life cycle or they've quit producing the pods that give back to the environment. So what exactly is this wood used for mainly? Well, you're seeing it right now. Dining tables, bar tops, benches, even accent walls. That's kind of where it's used these days. It has a natural durability and a resilience to moisture, and it makes it a very perfect and versatile for both indoor and outdoor furniture. Plus, the wood grain is simply stunning. Deep, rich tones with light sapwood edges give that unforgettable two-tone look. So speaking of having one of these in my own home, monkey pod is like bringing the rainforest into your house. I love my dining table, and this one is turning out stunning as well. It's kind of like one of those things where this tree was 100 years old. It got harvested, and now it's here in this gentleman's house, and it'll probably belong to his children's children eventually, and you gotta love that aspect of it. Okay, with the bottom finished, we flipped it. Didn't get any footage of it because, well, I just simply forgot to. But this is the top. And this is now after hours and hours, maybe even days of sanding, that I'm going to go through these grits from basically from 220 up to about 800 with this random orbit sander, as you see here. After I've gone to 800 grit, I put a little mineral spirits over the whole table to kind of see what I'm working with. And then I'm switching over to this big buffing wheel with these foam pads that go from 1,000 up to about 2,500 grit. And I'm not going to use much polishing compound here. I'm just going to go through these grits and then go ahead and apply the Osmo. Now, this is Osmo's thinnest hard wax oil. We're going to put this on. We're going to give it multiple coats, about 3, buffing in between each one. It's a pretty easy process. Just follow the manufacturer's instructions and you get a stunning look for sure. And here is a time lapse of the final coat just soaking into the wood. This is about 3 to 4 hours worth. Pretty interesting, I'd say. So I come back and then I just buff it off with, well, a shop towel for one, but then I'm going to hook a buffing wheel up to my angle grinder, kind of a large buffing grinder, if you will. And this is going to make quick work of this process for sure. and it's going to really buff that finish down into that table. One thing of note, I'm going to let this off gas for about 21 days. That was the manufacturing instructions. And during that time, they've gone ahead and, well, they've made some fall decorations. And so we're going to go ahead and take these off, and we're going to apply a ceramic coat to this table. So unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably seen nano finishes take the woodworking world by storm. There's a few out there, and I'm using Carbon Method's version of a ceramic coating on this table. The process is pretty simple. They have a kind of a pre-cleanse that you basically wipe down the table with, get rid of all the contaminants, and you do want to wear gloved hands at this point. You don't want the oils of your hands getting on the table. And then they have a pretty unique applicator pad with a foam and a dowel and this really cool piece of microfiber. And this is what you're going to use to apply the finish. You're going to simply take the hard coat first. It's a two-part process, and I'll explain that in a second. And you're going to flood the surface on this applicator. You're going to stretch a well line, what they call a well line of product, all down the first pass of the table, working in a kind of a box motion. And then you're going to stretch that well line throughout the process into that box you made. You don't got to be 100% precise here, but you want to work pretty methodically. And again, on their YouTube channel, I'm going to link everything down below for Carbon Method, including this kit. And there's also going to be a promotional offer down there as well. So look down in the comments and also in the description to find out exactly how you can get this for yourself and the promotion that we're offering. So you want to methodically work all the way down your work surface. You can see here I apply it thick on one side and drag it again, like I said, through that well line. Work your way all the way down, blend it as you need to, and then you're going to level it with the 45-degree angle pad to kind of smooth everything out. You can see here at the very end of this table, this is the last part of the hard coat going down. Same technique as before, and doesn't this area of the resin look like a dragon to you? It always did to me. I haven't mentioned that before, but yeah, it looks pretty cool. And then you're going to take this no pills cloth and you're going to buff everything out. This is the first coat. I then repeated this process 3 times for the first initial hard coat. There is a second coat called the top coat coming up next, and that's really the moisture barrier and the protection you're going to get from kids, kind of like those. And the application of the top coat is the same as the hard coat, basically identically. You're going to put some of this product on, and you're going to flood it just like I showed you before, and I repeated this process 3 times as well. You see a little bit different technique here. I'm not reaching across the table. It was a little difficult. The table's really wide, so I'm doing it in sections like this instead, and then I bring myself over to the other side of the table and I repeat the same process again. So I want to thank Carbon Method for sending this stuff over and allowing me to show you how to apply this ceramic coating to your next project. This dining table definitely needs it. There's 4 kids in this house. And again, check the pinned comment in the description for the promotion we're running and get this stuff for yourself. And now, check it out. All that work, this took about 5 months. I didn't work on it 100% of the time, but I was back and forth quite a bit, and I'm really proud how it came out. Now, you might be wondering what is going on with the table base. Well, the owner is going to attach that permanently to the base once I've finished this project. It's been heavy enough just to sit there, hasn't moved around very much, and this table is absolutely stunning. As you can see here, the base is really cool. It's got some really cool kind of industrial effects to it. It also can raise up and down as well. Pretty neat. The smoky resin looks great. The lighting in here is a little funky, but that's all right. I'm really happy to get this done. And now, the boy that lives in this house came and said, look, I found a hole here. Let me put a mini figurehead. I said, absolutely. How cool is that? Thank you so much for watching. If I've earned a subscription, I would definitely appreciate it. Y'all have a great one.